After a lot of rumours and speculation about this happening in the New Year's honours, the King has officially honoured Gareth Southgate, the former England manager, with a knighthood. He will be known as Sir Gareth Southgate from the new year. Now, unsurprisingly, totally predictable, this has absolutely divided the internet. And much like Southgate himself, the decision to give him a knighthood has been very controversial, with some pretty credible arguments, in my opinion, when it comes to whether he deserves this award or whether he doesn't deserve this award. And this is something that's pretty common in the UK. The honours system, as it's known, is something that is very, very divisive. Some people don't really see the point of it, think it's a rather, outdated thing, just like the monarchy itself. Some people think that it's something that's always been there and should always be there, and it's something that it allows people to compare the achievements of different people from different walks of life. But then there's some people that say, well, they hand them out like they're going out of fashion these days. Back in my day, it took a lot to actually be named a Knight or an OBE or an MBE, which are two other different awards you can get in the UK of a similar ilk, basically. So I just kind of wanted to go through the fors and the against when it comes to Southgate getting this knighthood and whether I think he deserves it or not. Because at the end of the day, when we're talking about the positives for it, we're talking about the reasons why he would deserve this. The reasons why a lot of people are saying that he's got this award is not only the fact that he is, the most successful England manager aside from Sir Alf Ramsey from back in the day, who won us the World Cup in '66, the only England manager to get to a major final aside from Ramsey, and he did it twice, of course, getting to the Euros finals on 2 occasions. But I think more importantly than that, I think the attitude around the England team has very much changed. Now, of course, there are definitely a lot of negative Nancy's out there when it comes to England. England can't do any right. If England don't win 5-0 every match, it's not good enough, basically. I'm sure some people were definitely thinking that, England are useless after they lost against Greece, which I wasn't particularly complimentary about it. But, for me, the attitude around the England team has definitely improved. I mean, you look at what England were like when Southgate took over in 2016. We had Roy Hodgson, who obviously steered an amazing loss against Iceland in Euro 2016. Before that, we were out in the groups of the World Cup in 2014. Euro 2012, that was really underwhelming, out in the quarterfinals, the start of the knockouts, as it was back in those days when it was a smaller format of a tournament. And before that, we had Capello, who took us to a group stage exit in World Cup 2010. Before that, we had Euro 2008, the Wally with the Brolly, Steve McLaren. We didn't even qualify for it. So you look at what England were like before that, and that was with some very, very talented players, which I will touch on a bit later in this video. But you can't deny the fact that pre-Southgate was definitely worse than post-Southgate, or during Southgate, I should say, post his appointment. And of course, let's not also forget that one game, Sam Allardyce, known as Samuel Allardyce to some of his friends these days, of course. He managed just for one match. Yeah, 100% win record. Can't take that away from him, but he very much ended his time in scandal, which I'm not going to go into here. So, England were in turmoil. England were absolutely in turmoil at that point, and he took what I consider to be a extremely average England side to a World Cup semi-final. I'll touch on that a bit more later, but let's just stick to the facts of where he actually got to during this tournament. Yes, World Cup 2022, a little underwhelming. I don't think anybody's going to deny that. Going out against France, though, on paper, very good team. They got to the final. They took Argentina all the way to penalties. So not a bad side to go out of. Certainly not losing to a team where you think, how on earth have they beat us? And then, of course, 2 Euros finals as well. So those are the positives, right? I feel like there's definitely something to be said when it comes to him giving youth a chance, changing the attitudes around the England team, and leaving the squad in a far better position than when he left it. Now the against, right? Now, there's some pretty credible arguments when it comes to this, and again, with Southgate, like I said, divisive figure. Some people say that he was too negative. Some people say that he, spoiled the best ever England side, or one of the best ever England sides in the modern era, and didn't win tournaments, didn't win anything with it. He was a failure, which is strong for sure. And I want to give one of my good friends a shout out here, Craig Holmes, who commented on the Match of the Day's post on it about Sir Gareth Southgate getting knighted. And I think, to be honest with you, I think his some good points, to be honest. It's weird. I just saw him flash up on my Facebook. I used to go to Sheffield United games. I used to sit next to him when I used to have a season ticket back in the day. Hope you're doing good, Craig. But yeah, he just basically put the following, and I will put his comment up on the screen as well. I apologize for the font. I don't know why he has his phone in this font, but he does. It's not me, it's him. All right, I don't have my phone in this font, but he basically said everybody talking about his contribution to sport. His contribution was to tactically bottle 2 finals and finish the England job with the same amount of winners' medals as when he started it. 0. Typical England, constantly rewarding failure. And I find it very hard to disagree with that. I really do. I mean, yeah, the fact is he didn't win any of those finals. The fact is that there was a great England squad and we didn't achieve anything in terms of actually winning it. We came close, we weren't there. So you could take it as being the first of the losers if you want to take that viewpoint. It's impossible to argue with that. That's a fact. And the other thing is as well, right, looking back on it, I mean, Euro 2020, you know, I feel like England definitely would have had a chance of winning that had we gone into it with different tactics. I mean, we went ahead really early on. Luke Shaw got the goal and we just sort of sat back a bit. And that's where the negativity comes into it. And that's where that, for me, is hard to argue against. Same against Spain as well, you know. I mean, we were very defensive on the whole, England, in that entire tournament. And it was the same against Spain as well. We were deservedly beaten, but had we gone into that game with a different attitude, I feel like there could have been a different result. Certainly, it wouldn't have been any worse. You know, at least you go into the game and think, well, at least we're going to have a go here, and it's going to be entertaining. And losing like that, for me, is a lot different to losing when you're not really going for it. But then again, if it worked, nobody would be complaining about it. So it's a really difficult one to measure. And the main comparison I would make, really, when it comes to Southgate is probably with Bobby Robson. And this is a comparison a lot of people are going to make because there's not that many footballing nights. Not that many footballing nights when it comes to being a manager. Now, of course, there are some from back in the day, such as Sir Bobby Charlton, but he won it for playing and also charity and stuff like that, most likely as well. It all comes into it, basically. It's not just your achievements when it comes to your sport, but it can be other things as well, things you do off the pitch, things in, you know, extracurricular activities effectively. And the main difference for me with Robson, because Robson obviously took us to a, what was it, Euros? No, it was a World Cup semi-final in 1990. I think he was in charge for. He got us to a semi-final anyway, which was great. You know, that was a hell of an achievement, and that definitely came into his honour basically when it came to that, his award, the Knighthood. So there is that. But the difference is between Robson and Southgate is that Robson was very much a distinguished club manager as well. He would later go on to manage the likes of Newcastle, but of course, you know, he also managed the likes of Barcelona as well and did incredible things with the likes of Ipswich Town. I think he actually won a European trophy with Ipswich. You know, dragged him up from the doldrums of English football to you know, I think might even won the league. But he did incredibly well anyway as Ipswich manager. So that's the big difference. And Southgate in the club game hasn't done anything like that, not even close. I think the only thing he's done of note in the club game as a manager is get relegated with Middlesbrough. That's kind of, unfortunately, that's kind of it. So yeah, there's a big difference there, and there is no set criteria for getting knighted. People act like there's a playbook on, you know, you do this and you get knighted, you know, and there isn't. There is no one size fits all solution, and it all very much comes down to the monarch of the day. And King Charles has decided that Gareth Southgate deserves a knighthood for his achievements. And I absolutely understand the arguments for and against. I really do. And I'm going to comfortably sit up on the fence here and I'm going to stay here. I'm not coming down on one side or the other because I do get both viewpoints. I feel like maybe, if I'm being honest, I think maybe being a knight is a bit strong. You know, maybe an OBE or an MBE. I feel like a knighthood is a bit much personally. But that's the thing, man. That's the honour system. That's what it's always going to be. It's always going to divide opinion. So is Southgate. And I think the true test, or the closest comparison really, you will have to Southgate in terms of his achievements as manager is what Thomas Tuchel does in the new year. If Tuchel takes England to win the World Cup in 26, then that would look pretty bad on Gareth Southgate. But again, and this is something I've spoken about in my video, you know, going over what is Southgate's legacy, because this is part of his legacy now. You know, what is his legacy? Well, some people might say it's failure, some people might say it's underachievement, other people might easily say that he you know, he's done an incredible job for England. He's the best manager in ending, you know, England in the modern era, really, in our lifetimes for a lot of people. If you're millennials, or well, if you're even a Gen Xer, you know, you've not really known an England side to do this well in terms of where they got to in tournaments. Only if you can remember the World Cup final in '66, and that you'd have to be pretty old to remember that these days. Then you can say, you know, legitimately they were the best because they got there. They were the best team in the world, undeniably, during that time. But Southgate's legacy as a knighthood, I mean, maybe it's a bit strong. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's changing the goalpost, for lack of a better term, when it comes to the honours system, because it is not a one-size-fits-all thing. And I've gone on for far too long in this video, guys, so I do appreciate you sticking with this one. This is a subject that I could do an entire podcast about easily if I'm, you know, if we're talking about this. But at the end of the day, it's the Football Chronicles, so I'm not gonna keep you for too long when it comes to this. But yeah, what are your thoughts, guys? Does Southgate deserve his knighthood? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And of course, we'll see you very soon for some more football content here on the footballchronicle.com. Like, share, comment, all that good stuff, and we'll see you very soon. Have a wonderful time bringing in 2025.